Hi, Hardware Harding here. Ever experienced those loose cupboard doors progressively loosening? Cupboards made out of chipboard, MDF, don't tend to hold screws very well. And basically what eventually happens is the screws work loose, sometimes aided by a child swinging from the door, or sometimes they just work loose. Right, what we've done here to simulate the hinges in a cupboard is I've just assembled a door to what would normally be the inside of a carcass of a cupboard. As you can see, the door would open and close. Also, I've left an exaggerated gap just to highlight the fact that one needs to pay careful attention to this dimension here. What I'm going to attempt to do is to damage these screws, i.e. damage the threads, just by over tightening the screws. The tools required to be used for this job will be a normal chargeable or rechargeable power driver, and we'll have two drill bits, one an 8 to a 10mm drill bit and a 2mm drill bit. As you can see, both of these drill bits have been taped off at 10mm. This is to ensure that the holes drilled into the wood, which is normally 16mm thick, are not exceeded and thus damaging the other side of the door. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to over tighten the screws on this hinge and strip them properly. Oh no, and as you can see, we ain't going to be putting any screws in there to hold these hinges. Right, what do? Hinge Fix. A little lifesaver available from your local hardware store. Hinge Fix is a hardware pack of some items that are required to solve this problem. Comes with detailed instructions, which we'll run through right now. The hardware pack consisting of 2 hinge plates, 4 hinge assembly screws, and 8 fixing screws for the plates to be fixed to the door. The hinge plate basically fits onto the existing hinge as such. Bearing in mind that some hinges have different dimensions on the carcass fixing aperture, which are these here. Occasionally it is necessary to take a drill and drill these slightly wider to allow the hinge plate to fit. Though this hinge plate fits most standard concealed hinges. Firstly, we assemble the hinge plate to the hinge. Right, the hinge plate is loosely assembled to allow it to be able to be positioned. As you can see, it's not yet quite a fixture. We then take an 8 to a 10mm drill, and as close as possible, normally by hand, we just try and machine out or drill out a fair indentation to allow for the fixing screws which connect the hinge to the adapter plate to protrude into the wood. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to speed up the process and use a hand drill. Ensuring that the adapter plate is flush against the carcass, one marks off the holes, the fixing holes, to be drilled. Using the 2mm drill bit, and notice I stress once again it's been marked to the depth of 10mm to ensure that one does not drill through the carcass timber. One drills pilot holes for the screws. Once all the pilot holes have been drilled, one then can line up the fixing plate insert the screws using your power driver, lightly position the screws, do not over tighten until all the screws have been positioned. Once all the screws are in place, one simply fastens, ensuring that the door, that the gap has been left the same and is positioned. Right, and there it is fixed. The same is then done to the bottom hinge on the door. Right, the same procedure is repeated with the second hinge, and as many hinges you might have a 2.4 meter door, which would probably have 3 or 4 hinges in. The same principle applies. The hinge can also then be adjusted later on with the normal hinge adjusting screws to make sure that the hinge is absolutely perfect. And finally, we fasten and as you can see, for a fraction of the cost of replacing either the carcass or the door, we have now repaired the faulty hinges. Bring the kids. They can hang on these doors. Only kidding.